Right, Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Ruach Kodash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. And Shalom and salutations, as always, to the elect that's out there preaching this word in truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Shaquat, one of the brothers from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal. Back with another lesson, and this lesson that I'll be getting into today is pretty much going to be flowing in the spirit. But the basis or the foundation of this lesson really was a thought, and that thought was pretty much meditating on the recent and current topics that have been going on, and that's the men that try to come up against the truth, basically saying that the heathen nations could be made, man, and that could make it, Salakia. And that's not true, right? That's not biblical. That's not according to the scriptures. Those are men that are twisting the scriptures. They're adding and taking away from the scriptures, right? Because when you're dealing with the scriptures, if you're reading it and seeing it for what's actually written, for what is truly there, you're going to, find out that, not every nation is the Lord's favorite. The Lord has favorites, man. The Lord has one specific nation. In fact, the whole scriptures from the book of Genesis all the way to the book of Revelation, it was pretty much, given to one people, not everybody, right? So that statement or claim that every other nation or heathen nations could make it too is wrong, right? Because only the Israelites can make it, and that's according to the scriptures, right? But what you have to understand too is that there's some mystery, and that mystery is that you have Israelites that would look like these other nations, right? But their spirit is an Israelite spirit, man, but they look like a heathen. But they'll make it if they're a part of the elect, And like the scriptures say, Israel scattered amongst the four corners of the earth. All right. So let's start here in the book of 2 Ezra 6 and verse 54. It says, "And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all." Right. So every nation of people come from Adam. And how is that? It's through the flood. Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And those are the ones that repopulated. Noah and his 3 sons were the ones that repopulated the earth after the flood. Right, so that's how everybody comes from Adam. It says, "And the people also whom thou hast chosen." Right, so this is indicating that the Lord has a chosen people amongst all the other nations on the earth, right? All the other 18 nations on the earth, the Lord has one chosen, and that's the Israelites. And obviously, if you have a favorite, you're going to treat the favorite, a lot more different than the least favorites. And that's how the Lord deals with Israel and the other nations, right? And like it says in Malachi, some might ask the question, where has the Lord loved us? How are we the Lord's favorite? And look at our condition, right? Because when you take a look at the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans' condition, you wouldn't think that the Lord loved us, right? But guess what? That's actually a form of love, because it's chastisement. That's the chastisement, being corrected. And you only get chastised if your father loves you, right? You get corrected and shown the right way. And that's what the Lord has done to the nation of Israel, right? Because other nations, they don't get chastised. The Lord lets them build up their tabs and destroys them, right? He doesn't beat them for every wrong they do right away, just like the nation of Israel. But that goes to show that the Lord loves you, right? Like the scriptures say, you don't chastise a bastard. Verse 55, "All this have I spoken before thee, O Yahweh, because thou madest the world for our sakes. So the whole planet Earth was made for the Israelites' sake, for the Lord's chosen people's sake, right? As for the other people, which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spittle, and is likened abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. So these other nations the Lord considers as nothing but spit. They don't amount to the value of the nation of Israel, right? So how could they make it? How could they be saved? It doesn't make sense. They can't be saved, man. The Lord doesn't. Salvation is not for them. Salvation is only for the nation that needs salvation first and foremost, and that's the nation of Israel. Salvation from oppression, because we've been through the most, we've been through the worst than any other nation, man. It says that in the book. Matter of fact, Salaki, let me grab it real quick. This is Daniel. (9) and verse 12. And he hath confirmed his words which he spake against us and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven hath not been done as had been done upon Jerusalem. And that great evil was bringing us down to the bottom of the totem pole. All right. It says, for under the whole heaven had not been done as had been done upon Jerusalem. So we went from an excellent and aristocrat nation to bottom feeders, man. Right? And no other nation has went through what we've gone through as a nation. Right? The amount of torment that we've gone through. No other nation felt that. Right? So let's go back to the book of 2 Ezra 6 and verse 57. And now, O Yahweh, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. But we, thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure, right? How long are we going to stay in this state? Not long, right? Because soon the Lord's getting ready to return and set the world in order. And that order is, a part of that order is that the nation of Israel will be at the top of every nation instead of the bottom. Matter of fact, let me get one last precept in the book of Ecclesiastes. Salakia. This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 10. And I'm going to start at verse 5. It says, there's an evil which I have seen under the sun, as an error which proceedeth from the ruler. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. I have seen servants upon horses, and princes walking as servants upon the earth, right? So we are those princes walking as servants upon the earth, man. And then you have servants on horses, people that are supposed to be serving. They're actually sitting on the power seat, man. And that's an error. But guess what? That's out of order. And that order is going to be reset when Yahweh Shai returns. Right? The prince is going to be the one sitting on the horse, and the servant's going to be the one walking. Right? And that's how it's supposed to be. That's the rightful order of things. So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying. To the elect, I want to say call hello, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Ruchakodash. Once again, double honors to my teachers, the apostles, the bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. And as always, shalom to the elect.